Sure. Maybe 11 minutes. So it's absolutely because I've got 2 dogs. It's nice. I was in the and bring the public. That's all by myself. I can't do that. I'll make it that. I make it so it's needed to it is to. Yes.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the meeting of Northern Planning Committee. I am Councillor Paul Wynne, Chairman of the committee. We're not expecting a fire drill today. In the event of an alarm sounding, please leave the building and gather at the front of the building. I'm obliged to inform you that this meeting is being live streamed and recorded. And I'll also ask you to please ensure that your mobile phones are switched off and ensure the volume on your laptops is muted. To ensure the members of this committee and all points raised by the public speakers are properly heard, I must advise you that I will not, that's printed wrong actually, I must advise you that I will not tolerate any disruptive behaviour. This is a meeting held in public, not a public meeting. And if such behaviour takes place and persists, I will adjourn the meeting. Members should ensure that you are present throughout the meeting, as you cannot vote on any item you have not heard on the debate. Can members and officers introduce themselves each time before they speak, so those listening know who's speaking? I shall now ask members of the committee and officers to introduce themselves. So, Julie, let's start, please.
Councillor Julian Dean, Porthill. Councillor Nat Green, Quarry and Councillor. Councillor Ted Clark, Basin Rockwood Club.
Councillor Nick Hignott, Ray Valley, and substituting for Councillor Vince Hunt for this meeting.
Councillor Jeff Elmer, Ellesmere, Urban. Steve Davenport, Councillor St Martin's, Dudleston and Diddleston. Bank Division.
Colin Taylor for Alvley and Cladley, substituting for Councillor Alex Wagner for this meeting.
Have the Lift Planning and Development Services Manager. Jane Priest, Senior Planning Officer.
Richard Denson, Senior Planning Officer.
Philip Mullen, New Development Manager.
Idris Iqbal, Solicitor.
Emily Marshall, Committee Officer.
Also, I'd like to welcome two new members. I'm not seen on this committee before, Nick and Colin. Welcome. Just one more thing. Can you bring your microphones towards yourself so everybody can hear? Okay, because it's a bit quiet sometimes. Okay. Right, apologies for absence. Councillor Steve Charnley, substitute for Steve Davenport. Councillor Vince Hunt, substitute for Councillor Nick Hignett. Councillor Joyce Barrow, double booked. Gives apologies. Councillor Alex Wagner, substituted by Councillor Taylor. Thank you. Right, to confirm the minutes from the meeting held on the 18th of June. Thank you, Gary. Seconder. Thanks, Steve. 3, public questions none received. Any disclosable pecuniary interest with anybody? Nope. Hello, Roger. Right. Planning applications. So the first one is Spenford House, Lockington, Shrewsbury. And
This is number 5.
no, sorry.
Colvert Lake.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Colhurst, sorry. Colhurst. I'm presenting. It's Richard. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you, Chair. I can confirm that there are no updates to this application. This is a full application for change of use and extension of an existing open portal frame barn with a corrugated roof by the disabled 2-bedroom holiday let on ground floor and the tea room at first floor. The application also includes the regularisation of 4 glamping pitches and siting of a compost amenity building. The proposed site is located 3.5 kilometres south of Market Drayton and 4 kilometres to the northwest of Hinstock in open countryside and is outside any recognised settlement. Colhurst Lake was a former fishery, although no longer provides day fishing tickets and is now only available to camping guests. The existing campsite is small, with planning permission for up to 8 camping pitches. Officers consider that the layout, scale and appearance of the glamping pods, disabled holiday accommodation and tea room will respect the rural landscape and will not impact on residential amenity. Whilst issues relating to highways, ecology and drainage are acceptable, subject to safeguarding conditions as indicated in paragraphs 6.5, 6.6 and 6.7 of the committee report. However, the proposed work for the portal frame, including the extensions, will be tantamount to a new build rather than conversion, as indicated in paragraph 6.27 of the committee report. The existing building is not a heritage asset and is of a modern construction with open sides. Policy MD11 of the SAMDEV plan supports tourism facilities and visitor accommodation. In relation to the disabled holiday let, paragraph 8 of this policy states, holiday let development which does not conform to the legal definition of a caravan and is not related to the conversion of an existing appropriate rural building will be restricted in the countryside, following the approach to open market residential developments in the countryside. Colehurst Lake is not an established tourist attraction, and the proposed holiday let would effectively provide a new dwelling in the open countryside, albeit restricted. The tea room is not located in an accessible location, with the majority of visitors having been heavily reliant on the car and is therefore not considered a sustainable location. Officers do not consider that the existing campsite and proposed holiday accommodation would sustain the tea room. No viability assessment or identified need has been submitted with the application to support the scheme under policy CS8 of the core strategy. Officers acknowledge the parish council comments regarding supporting the visitor economy, although holiday accommodation must be assessed against local plan policy, as indicated in paragraph 6.2 of the committee report. The National Planning Policy Framework in paragraph 88 supports a prosperous and rural economy and relates to the sustainable growth of all types of businesses in the rural area, including the conversion of existing buildings. It also indicates that sustainable rural tourism would be supported, although these need to be accessible by foot, cycling and public transport. The proposed tea room is not considered to be sustainable in this regard. In conclusion, officers consider that the disabled holiday accommodation tea room would be tantamount to a new build construction located in open countryside, contrary to local plan policy. The site does not fall within or adjacent to a recognised settlement providing services or an established and viable tourism enterprise where accommodation for food and drink are required and therefore considered sustainable. This application is therefore being recommended for refusal. I'll just go through some of the slides that we've got. So the first slide shows the site in location to the surrounding countryside. The main road is the red line to the south. It's about 300 metres to the north of that. Next slide, please. This is a more detailed site. Site's edged in red with the Colehurst Lake in the centre. And the country lane runs along the eastern boundary of the site where access will be gained. Next slide, please. The bottom diagram of the two images is a detailed site layout plan showing the dwelling existing on site, which is a rural workers dwelling. Access is to the eastern boundary in the bottom right hand corner, with the building located on the eastern boundary next to the road. Next slide, please. This is the existing portal frame building supported on 6 posts with a corrugated roof with roof lights with 4 open sides. Next slide, please. This is the proposed internal kind of layout. The bottom image is the ground floor showing a 2-bedroom accessible holiday let. There's an external staircase that wraps around the back corner with an outside lift also to provide disabled access to first floor, with the first floor predominantly being the tea room with a small balcony, kitchen and an office and servery. Next image, please. This image is the external appearance of the proposed building, which will be brick clad on the lower ground floor level with timber cladding above. The red hatched areas, if you can see those on the plan, indicate the proposed extension to the building, including the staircase to the side and to the rear. It equates to approximately a 50% increase over the existing size of the building. Next slide, please. This is one of the next 4 slides are just images of the cabins which have been already erected on site. So next slide. And they're all sort of wooden structures, all of an individual kind of unique appearance. The committee report indicates the size of them. There's a 4-person cabin, and the 3 other cabins are 2-person. So next one. This is an image of one that's being currently built on site. This is part of a frame of a trailer, and they all comply with the caravan, the definition of a caravan. So they are effectively movable structures and aren't permanently sited to the ground. Next slide, please. This is, as I said, they're all individual and unique kind of designs. This is one's on the northern boundary of the site. All well enclosed by the landscaping. Next slide, please. This is an aerial image of the lake. 3 cabins and the amenity building are located on the southern shore of the lakeside. There's a strong native hedgerow along the field boundaries to the south, and a large woodland to the north. The one cabin is located on the northern shore of the lake. And you can see the hard standing to the right-hand side of the image, with the dwelling located to one side, and the barn adjacent to that parking area. Next slide, please. This is the access lane directly in front of the site, with the existing boundary, sort of trees and undergrowth. Next slide, please. This is the existing main entrance. The rural workers' dwelling is obviously clearly on the left-hand side of the image, and you might just see the corner of the open barn on the right-hand side of the image. Next slide, please. This is obviously the angle as which you'd approach the site from the main road. So you do see a small proportion of the building, but clearly you can see the level of mature tall tree screening around the site. I think the final image is the existing building that's on site there. And this is the building which will be converted. So there'll be an extension built in the position to where the 2 vehicles are, with the staircase wrapping around the back, and the balcony will be on the left-hand side of the building. That concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. We have 3 speakers in this application. So first we have Graham Dole, please, on behalf of Sutton Parish Council. Let's come forward, please.
Thank you for your patience.
No worries. Don't panic. If you would please. Each side of my press. Right hand side. Your 3 minutes will start when you start speaking. Okay, and there's a clock there. So.
Thank you, Chairman, for the opportunity to address the committee about Calder's Lake application 2401 through 904. First, I'd like to, I'm the parish clerk at Sutton-on-Tern Parish Council. First, I'd like to look at the context of Policy 6, having policies that should support economic growth in rural areas. The Parish Council has supported this business from its very early days, and as it is seen as a champion of how diversity works within a very rural economy, which so often, where so often the focus on the big applications are within Shrewsbury and the market towns, often to the detriment, the Parish Council would argue, to the very rural areas that frankly are struggling. The Parish Council sees the site as an exemplar for the very rural visitor economy. As that market continues to change, this application offers a real step change
a unique, personal and inclusive experience for those with disabilities, many of whom will be armed forces veterans. I wanted then just to dwell on policy CS16, and the parish council believes that the application offers diversity in the rural economy for tourism, and if outside of a recognised settlement, is part of an established and viable tourism business, which the parish council has been very supportive over a number of years. But what do others have to say who have visited the site? If you want to unplug from a day-to-day stresses of life, this is the place to go. These can be visited on the company's website. We love this peaceful gateway to the countryside, the stream, the lake, really helpful to unwind. The hospitality we received was amazing, and they made us feel exceptionally welcome in their own little piece of paradise. So the parish council believes that this little piece of paradise should not be denied to people who have a disability. The application provides good quality, disability accessible accommodation, which is a scarce commodity for very rural tourism. Those with disabilities find that there are significant challenges to full participation into society, and the benefits that that nature often shows and supports, supported by research, shows it can heal both body and soul. The parish council would strongly urge members to support the application. Sorry, I ran over, Chairman.
Well done, well timed, thank you, Graham. Right, local member, Rob Gittins, like to come forward, please. You have 5 minutes if you need it.
Thank you. Right, dear committee members, over the last 7 years of being a councillor, it's been an absolute pleasure and honour to follow Holly and Nick's story from when they first purchased this site to growing a very successful and sustainable business, catering for all sorts of guests, including military veterans, from providing fishing facilities to camping and glamping, which also, helps out military veterans as well, and providing disabled access facilities for guests is just another amazing service that Holly and Nick would love to offer, and would very much help those people in their need. Holly and Nick are incredibly passionate about their business, as you'll later hear, and have some amazing testimonials and reviews from all over the world, the great service that they offer. As the former cabinet member for leisure and tourism, I can't stress enough how important it is that we as a council support the local tourism industry as much as possible, and to actively encourage business growth in this most valuable sector of our local economy. One of the ways we can do this is through planning. An application such as this to encourage more visitors to our wonderful county, especially as this application caters for a much needed niche in regards to the disabled access. Looking at the officer's report, I'm always very used to seeing at least 3 to 4 reasons of why an officer may choose to approve or refuse an application. But on this application, as you can see at the top of page 2 of the officer's report, there's simply one point of common attention, which is around planning policy. And as members of the committee, you all know that planning policy is seldom black or white, but tends to be more 50 million shades of grey, with multiple interpretations of the same policy. And during my time as a councillor, I've witnessed far more intrusive applications being passed in open countryside. Therefore, I would like to plead with my fellow councillors to simply ask yourselves one question. Is this a very positive application really doing any harm? Is this application really doing any harm to the sustainability of the local area? Or is this application really doing any harm to the consistency of planning decisions made by the council, which at times can be woefully inconsistent anyway? And I could quite happily point to numerous applications within my own division alone, which have been passed, which are unsustainable and in open countryside. I think we can all agree this application is certainly not one of those. This application seeks consent to extend an existing building located on the established camping and glamping site and afford ground floor disabled accommodation alongside a first floor tea room. The suggestion that the building is tantamount to a new build dwelling is strongly flawed and highly disputed, and I would kindly ask members of the committee to disregard those officers' comments. It is acknowledged that there are no technical concerns or objections to the application, and the officers' report confirm that the layout, scale, and appearance of the development will not be visually detrimental to the character of the area. As you can also see by the officers' report, that this application is generally well supported by the local community, the parish council, and of course myself. None of the major consultees have highlighted any major objections or concerns, and therefore I really can't see what harm passing this application would have on all parties, including the council, and would kindly ask the committee to approve this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Chairman, we have the applicant, I'm sorry. Ollie Cooper, you'd like to come forward, please? Yeah, you have 3 minutes, Ollie. The clock's there. I'm very strict once you get to full time, okay?
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen of the committee, I sit before you today disappointed that our application has been recommended for refusal, when we believe it addresses a specific need for accessible accommodation and hospitality in not only our local area, but in Shropshire. My mother, Leslie, who has battled with multiple sclerosis for over 30 years, faces constant challenges, especially in urban places. Unless you've experienced mobility impairment yourself or have a close relative who has, you can't fully understand the daily struggle. Mum often finds tables and chairs blocking her path at cafes, feeling embarrassed to ask people to move as others watch. The lack of space makes it difficult for her to manoeuvre her wheelchair, and she's even been unable to fit through cafe doors, forced to turn around and leave. Our application deeply understands the needs of disabled people through 30 years of personal experience. Shropshire County Highway says no objections. The ecological report raises no concerns. Furthermore, Sutton Parish Council has positively encouraged the development. Yet, despite agreement in principle, we find ourselves facing potential refusal because we have not changed our plans in accordance with the discriminatory suggestions made by Mr. Richard Erson. He states that the provision of disabled holiday accommodation is supported in principle in this location, but goes on to suggest, concerningly, that we convert the existing building into a tea room with ground floor disabled access directly from the car park, while additional seating could be provided upstairs for able-bodied customers. I ask you to look at my dear mum, sitting here in a wheelchair. Can you imagine the indignity being relegated to the ground floor, while able-bodied individuals enjoy the scenic views from the upper levels? This is not only a blatant violation of the Equality Act 2010, but it also goes against the very principles of inclusivity and equal access that our government has championed. We're soup hosts on Airbnb with a 5-star rating, the highest you can achieve. Our highly rated reviews are a testament to the quality of our service and the experience we provide to our guests, many of whom come from all over the country and the world to enjoy a glamping site. My husband, Nick, is ex-military and involved with Help for Heroes. We're proud to offer a 15% discount to both serving and veteran military and blue light personnel, which is regularly taken up by the guests. Our proposal aligns with the government and Shropshire Council's policies on economic growth, tourism and inclusivity. If today's decision is a refusal, we will appeal. Please grant your application and let us show that Shropshire is a beacon of inclusivity and accessibility.
Thank you very much. Richard, you'd like to come back with any of the comments?
Yes. In relation to the proposed development, officers do support disabled accommodation. However, obviously, we're very constrained by policies in how we consider that. Policy CS16, which relates to tourism, culture and leisure development, relates to sustainable development, and it specifically relates to rural areas where they must be of an appropriate scale and character to the surroundings, and need to be close or within settlements to provide them to be sustainable and within viable tourism locations. As indicated previously, this is effectively a new build. Obviously, there's a slight dispute with that. We've had no structural survey with the application to indicate how the building could be converted or what works are required. It's the officer's opinion that there would be quite substantial works to the building, and the committee report does sort of go into that. In relation to suggestions of how they could amend the scheme, as an officer, yes, we did provide some suggestion that they could retain the existing building without extending it. The application shows a lift, so accommodation could be provided for disabled people for the first floor tea room if that was provided. The application hasn't been accompanied by any kind of business plan, any viability to indicate how that tea room would be sustainable in the long term. The camping site is relatively small. Some of the customers there may well utilise the tea room, but officers consider that a vast significant proportion would come from further afield, and may well be some distance. As I said, there's no access to the site for walking or public transport, so the majority would be vehicles. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. I've had 4, 5 already got their hands up to speak, so I'm open to the floor now. Steve, you're first.
Yeah, just a question to start with. The lake, the fishing lake, is that in the ownership of the applicant now? And how long before the campsite was set up was it a live business as a fishing lake? Yes.
I'll just go to the applicant. I'll just ask.
To Keith answered.
Yeah. Well, if Richard knows, yes, by all means.
Yes, planning permission was granted in May 1990 for the construction of the fishing pool. So assuming that planning permission was given for 3 years, it would have been constructed within 3 years of that date.
Long time. Thank you.
Thank you. Matt.
Thank you, Chair. And yeah, again, two questions. First, to what extent does the lack of the business plan have an effect upon your recommendation? And second, if the plan had been merely the proposed building was on the existing floor plan only, how much would that affect it as well?
Right, in relation to the first point, the business plan, officers need to understand how the business is going to operate. Policy relates to tourism facilities being provided in connection to a tourist attraction. Now, historically, yes, there was the fishing lake there, and you could associate that some fishermen would have utilised the cafe for refreshments. That's changed, and we now have a small campsite. Now, I assume from the size of the tea room that customers will come from further afield, and they wouldn't be just reliant on customers of the campsite. We're not sure where they will come from, whether any marketing has been done to find out whether it'll be local people coming, whether it will be advertised for people sort of further afield to come. In relation to the second question regarding the use of the existing building, we have an extant planning permission for the conversion of that with external works as part of the application that we had to convert the land for a campsite, and that was going to be amenity of facilities, washrooms, showers, toilets. There's a sitting area, and I think there's a store and a small office, and that did just utilise the existing building itself. And obviously that would limit the size of the floor area of the cafe. And officers felt that that might be an option to be more supportive on a much smaller scale that's being proposed. Obviously, what we're going to appreciate is that, you know, the building will be increased by 50%. Now, normally for any conversion of any kind of building in the rural area, we wouldn't normally allow extensions only in exceptional circumstances. That's normally relating to a historic building. This isn't even a historic building. It's a shelter as opposed to a building, I suppose. Yeah.
Okay, right, Jeff.
Thank you. Just like to ask if this extension was commercial use only, not residential, would that matter? I mean, you know, they're running a business or trying to run a business, and a tourist campsite surely to be as commercial, not residential.
Do you want to come in there, Philip?
I'd just like to add that the photograph of the building to be converted is up on the screen. I would say it's tantamount to the direction of a new build. There'll be more new build in that than conversion of existing. And to draw members' attention to what officers' key concerns is wrapped up very well in paragraph 6.210 with the heading tea room above it. Because sustainability covers a wide range of issues, and part of officers' opinion is that sustainable development needs to be viable. And I think that paragraph in itself is a good summary of the key concerns by officers in relation to this application. And I'd like to also add, officers as well as the councillors in general are very supportive of arrangements and provision for disabled members of the public, whether they be ex-armed forces or ill health. And we always are mindful to support within reason, in relationship to your policies.
Excellent. Gary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've got quite a few concerns on this development. Whilst I'm fully sympathetic with the applicant, I'm as a mother, I had a disabled wife, and I would like to access buildings with wheelchairs, etc. I've been there, done that. However, the idea of putting a disabled accommodation on the ground floor with a cafe above it, with disabled access to the cafe, answers their concerns about disabled access. So the cafe itself has got disabled access. The question is, do we allow a disabled building within the shell of the building? Why can't they've got bushels for 8 glamping pods? You can get demountable disabled access caravans these days. They can quite easily put 2 more disabled friendly demountables on the site. So the only issue is the size of the building. In fact, it's 3% bigger than currently allowed, and goes totally against policy for development in the Greenbelt. So I'm afraid I'm going to be recommending we accept the proposals.
That's a proposal.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so we've got a proposal. Do I have a second for that? Don't very early days yet. Still debating. We'll debate some more. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Julian.
Thank you. I'm going to echo much of what Gary's just said, actually, because I couldn't tell from I was just trying to look on the website to see whether any of the existing glamping facilities are disabled access, because there's no reason why there shouldn't be, and there's plenty of examples of that in other places. So having disabled camping as an available thing on this site is perfectly doable within the existing planning. I would assume, which means the question is whether or not there should be a tea room, which, in your argument, would only work economically if it brings in people, and if it's doing that, it's doing it in a way which is not sustainable because of its location. And on those grounds, I absolutely get your point that it's not a sustainable location for a new build tea room. The case for disabled available camping on that site is well made and could be accommodated within the existing development as I understand it.
Thank you. Steve.
Yeah, from as a family, we have a tea room in Cheshire in the countryside that actually won the best tea room in the United Kingdom 3 or 4 years ago. and it draws people from all over the world. So actually, it doesn't matter whether you're fishing, tea room, making ball bearings, any new business takes a couple of years to get off the ground. So, and my other point on that, whose decision it's not a tourism area? Look at Alton Towers, neither was that. And Rob Gittins, thank you very much. You reminded me that every day is a school day. In planning policies, all planning policies are a shade of grey, as Rob mentioned.
Thank you. Ollie.
Thank you, Chairman. I've got really mixed feelings about this, but I'm erring to support Gary's proposal at the moment. Whereas my late wife suffered from Parkinson's and dementia, and so I'm familiar with all the difficulties having to have someone disabled, etc., moving around places and getting access to and out. I'm also mindful of the tourism and having something sustainable within the community. However, when you look at the size of this, its existing size is 10 metres by 6.5 metres and 6.6 metres high. Now we're told it's going to be up to 50% more than that. So it's a considerable bulk. And looking at the total site, to me, it looks as though it is totally out of scale and character set within the site. It's not just like having that open spaced portal building there. You've got to admit, consider that this is going to be a very considerable bulk inside it and will alter the character of the whole site by its sheer size. Again, I'd go along with those people who said, there are other ways of achieving what they would like to do within this site. And I would prefer that they'd have come back with something a bit more acceptable within that. Thank you.
Thank you, Colin. Roger.
Thank you, Chairman. Apologies for putting it a bit fine and being a little bit late, but I'm minded to support the application. Rural rebalance, rural business sustainability, and I know that it's 440 metres from the A41. It's local economy, support the local economy, and it's all labelled in 6212. And I feel that businesses at present operating in the present current economic climate do need assistance in providing more attraction and becoming more of a viable, sustainable business. And I can't see a lot of harm in doing this. The business is already up there and running, the lake's there, and to provide what is needed in that area, in my opinion, should be welcomed.
Thank you, Roger.
Nick. Thank you, Chair. Whilst I welcome access for people with disabilities, I am a bit concerned that a tea room with, I think it said 15 covers, is not economically viable, and I'm concerned that a business plan would have probably helped with this. Not sure whether it is new build, although that is a very large building. It's literally just legs and a roof over it, so it would need substantial development to try and build the tea room that they're proposing, especially with an increase of 50% on the footprint. On the plus side, I do agree that we need to bring tourism into all areas of Shropshire. Shropshire is a beautiful county, and we should, whenever possible and whenever viable, be trying to support tourism. I'm just a bit concerned that on this site, the access would mostly have to be by vehicles. There doesn't seem to be pedestrian access to it. If it was in the middle of 2 or 3 footpaths passing on either side of it, then it would be more sustainable, I believe. But those are just my thoughts at the moment.
Thank you, Nick. And do I have a seconder for Gary's proposal? Thank you, Julie. I propose and second. Ms. Tellison.
Just a point of clarification. I've just been speaking with the highways officer online just to confirm that the comments were based on those on site using the highways comments were no objection based on the people using the campsite. There wasn't an assessment on what other people coming to the area. So it is a single lane road. So just for that point of clarification on the highways comments, there were no objection, but on the basis of those people using the site.
Is that because it was changed to open to the public or?
No, well, I think I don't think it's been 100% clear. So the comments from Highways were on that basis.
Thank you for that. So any more comments, Gary?
Just on what Taverns Club is, Mr. Chairman, is it perhaps mindful to now defer this and go back and get Highways to work out what they would think if it's fully accessible up a single track lane?
Possible to have a
They would need another assessment to do that. So that would probably be hiring a transport consultant to do an assessment to then come back. We could be quite a long way off that.
Just a thought.
Oh, sorry, Roger.
Yeah, no. I'm concerned about this late information from the Highways that we haven't seen it and it's not written down here. So for that to come in at this stage is not to me good, because the application is there before us now and the applicant and those supporting it had no chance of actually disputing or making comment on that because it is late information before us today.
So you proposing a deferral until we get the information, Roger?
I'm proposing a deferral because if that is there and it is relevant to this application, then members should have time to actually consider that. So should the applicant in a late letter or whichever way they wish to actually address the concerns that are now being expressed.
Would you take on board possibly the viability of the business as well? Have a report on the viability of the business.
Agreed, Chairman.
Okay, so
In that case, I'll withdraw my earlier one and I'll send it to referral.
you have to be redrawn.
On the basis of a referral, I am, yes, but
Deferral, yeah.
if that's what
If that's we'll go with that one first, Roger. So that one's been pulled out. Been withdrawn.
Yep.
Second's been withdrawn. Got a close from Roger, a seconder from Julian.
That's
To defer the application for further things.
So, excuse me, I'm not very clear here.
Right, so
Referral on what grounds?
defer on the ground, we haven't got information about that, Highways.
Transport, it should only just come in.
We actually, the application is as before you. Officers have recommended refusal because it's unsustainable development. Because it's it's because of its location. There's nothing said in the report, correct me if I'm wrong, Richard, about outside businesses.
Just check on that because I thought it was to be open to the public.
Is it open to the public from outside the site?
That was my understanding. Yes, that was my understanding that it would be available to the public.
To the public, and Highways haven't taken that into account.
And I understood the Highways had actually made reference to the increasing traffic movements along with the access lane from the main road. So this is
That's thrown into the mire a bit because the Highways have actually said that increased traffic on the highway. That makes sense, Roger?
What I'm going on, Chairman, is the information that was just given to members. It can't be withdrawn now, but that information was given to members that Highways comment on here, where they've raised no objection, was on a subject which they were not fully au fait with what the application concerned. That's what I heard just said.
Can I just correct, please? You need to refer to the Shropshire Council Highways response as set out in paragraph 4.11 of your report. In my opinion, the Highways officer has taken that into consideration.
It has been taken into consideration. I have to go with what we're forward to Julian.
in that case, I'm going to resubmit.
Could you pop your thing on, please?
Beg your pardon, I'll resubmit and we go with the officer's recommendation as a proposal.
Right, so you're going to stand with that as well. Okay, Roger, because we feel that the Highways have covered that. So what do we do? Roger, so will you withdraw that?
I still have that opinion that I expressed a few minutes ago, but that proposal is the first proposal.
Yeah.
I would amend it and ask for it to be deferred, subject to further clarification being obtained from the officers in relation to the statement that was made a few minutes ago.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, he withdrawn with the second. So we've got, so we need to say Gary's proposed it. I think he's come back to propose the first proposal. But Roger's put, no, but you haven't got a second to Roger.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So you need a second.
Will be a second to chairman, but it's a second is the amendment. It's up to members.
Sorry.
No, the first recommendation.
That's withdrawn. It's the first one for Roger's now. Is there a second for Roger's proposal?
I'd like to make another proposal. We vote against the officer's recommendation. I would like to do that.
I'll get one proposal at a time. If it gets
Okay.
big.
Okay.
And that's to be decided.
That's a second for Rogers.
Gary's proposed, we have a seconder.
Yeah.
Gary's.
Yep.
That's going to be on the table now.
And that's to refuse planning
To
permission.
accept the officer's recommendation.
To refuse the officer's recommendation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
To accept
Accept
the
the
officer's recommendation.
To go with the officer's recommendation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of refusal.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what we're going to vote on now. Everybody clear?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll roll call vote on it. That's okay.
Thank you, Chair. Please, can you vote, can you confirm whether you're for or against the proposal, which is to refuse planning permission in accordance with the planning officer's recommendation? Gary Birchett,
Or
Ed Clark,
For.
Steve Davenport,
against.
Julian Dean,
For.
Jeff Alner,
Against.
Roger Evans,
Against.
Matt Green,
For.
Colin Taylor,
For.
Nick Higginick, against, and Paul Wynn.
Four. So that application's been refused to officer's recommendation. Okay. Right, one more.
Stickers.
Just let the room clear for a second. Yeah. Okay, so the next application, thank you for to Shrewsbury. And you do this one?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This application proposes removal of an existing modern entrance porch and its replacement with an oak framed enclosed porch at Spenford House, Loppington. There are no updates. The application is presented to committee owing to issues raised by Loppington Parish Council as set out in paragraph 4.2 of the officer's report. I'll now run through the slides. Site location outlined in red on the elevation where the porch is due to go. The dwelling is a listed building, and this has been brought to committee owing to the concerns raised by the parish council. However, I must emphasise it only needs listed building consent, as the size of the porch is permitted development. Therefore, it does not need full planning permission, just listed building consent. Existing elevations showing the side where the porch is going to be placed here, where the cursor is now. That's the existing elevations again. That's the proposed elevations. That's the existing porch to be replaced with an enclosed porch. Photograph of the existing elevations of the house, and this is a close-up of the existing open fronted porch. Officers consider this a straightforward application, albeit in relation to a Grade 2 listed structure located within a conservation area. The existing porch structure is not considered to be of any significant historic merit. The scale and size of the proposed replacement porch considered acceptable, with no detrimental impact on the surrounding area, which includes consideration to amenity. Proposal, as I've indicated though, is considered permitted development as far as full planning application is concerned. Therefore, application considered acceptable in accordance with relevant local plan policies, and this includes section 66 and 72 of the Planning and Listed Building Conservation Areas Act 1990. As such, the proposal considered acceptable, and the officer recommendation is approval, as set out in paragraph 7 of the officer's report. That concludes my presentation on this application, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Yeah, if you could just tell the committee that why it's come through, because the parish council have objected. Did you say that?
Yes.
All right, I'll let you off.
No,
We haven't
just
any drawings of the proposed thing, we haven't got some drawings of it.
Just to be clear, this application has got several applications on the same dwelling for each part of the development that the applicant proposes to do. And it is considered on this one because the officer's recommendation is approval, and the parish council did raise material considerations in relationship to the setting of the listed building. Therefore, it was considered by the chair and vice in conjunction with officers appropriate for this to be brought to committee.
Okay, any comments on this one? I'm going, right, Julian.
I mean, I'm minded just to say, to go with the recommendation, but I'm just wondering why we haven't seen a reasonable picture of what they're planning to do.
That's what I just
asked.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not very big.
I'll show you the slide now.
No.
There it is. There's proposed elevations there.
Doesn't look very different.
I think it's more closed in, isn't it?
It's similar in size because of the permitted development like rights that are allowed on porches, and it is similar. It's enclosed,
Okay.
whereas the existing is an open framed one.
Nick?
Thank you, Chair. I feel qualified to speak on this one because I live in a black and white house very similar to that, although mine is painted black and white. The porch, as it stands, could we have a picture up, please, of the existing porch?
Yes.
And from what I know of buildings of this sort of age, and a lot of research I've done into my house, that porch is totally out of keeping with the building. You would not have a nice old timbered house and then put narrow struts like that at the front of the porch. So it's totally out of keeping with the building. I think the new one, although we haven't seen a picture of what it's going to be, is sure to be better. And I propose going with the officer's recommendation, subject to condition set out as Appendix 1. Thank you.
Thank you. Julian, I think you proposed to start with. Did you?
Well, I'll second that.
I second that. Job done. Any more comments? Going straight to vote. I think we can have the show of hands on this one. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Moving on to item 7. So, Jane.
This application concerns another listed building, but this is a grade 2 star listed building, Stonegrange, Brensville, and we've got 2 applications before you for the erection of 3-bed garage with a room over and conversion of an outbuilding to a gym and entertainment room. Now, the listed building consent and the planning applications are the same. They post the same drawings, so we'll deal with slides as one. But then at the end, when you come to decide on the applications, you'll have to do 2 separate votes. Okay, next slide. This is the location plan showing Stonegrange pretty central within that, and some existing outbuildings to the rear, and then a garden room at the bottom of the garden. Obviously a high street runs behind it. Off to the right is an outbuilding in the adjacent site, but that's not within the ownership currently. So the high street runs to the frontage. Next slide, please. This shows the relationship to the, well, we've only got partial footprint of the existing dwelling, but to the rear is the outbuilding proposed for conversion. That's the existing garaging and garden store at the moment to be converted to the gym and entertainment space. And then to the frontage, we've got the 3-bay garage with the room over. Next slide, please. So that's the existing building being converted. Next slide. That's the elevations of the existing building to be converted. Next slide, please. That's the floor plans as proposed. No external alterations involved other than filling the garage doors with the glazing there. Next slide, please. This is the proposed garage with room over as originally proposed. We have had objections from both Historic England and Council's Conservation Officer to that plan. So in response, the agent has submitted amended plans. Next slide, please. Removing the dormers and reducing the height. The height's reduced by about 300 mil and the gable parapets by 500 mil. The accommodation to be provided is, say, a 3-bay garage, ground floor, got an external stair, and then over. What is said on the plans is a home office with a kitchenette and a separate shower room. What is said in the design and access statement is staff accommodation. So, but in the description of development, it's just termed accommodation over. So it covers both areas. Next slide, please. That's the photograph in the design and access statement showing the south elevation of the existing outbuilding. The other elevation is blank and in the card route. Next slide, please. That's from the design and access statement indicating the position of the new build. Next slide, please. These are photographs provided by the agent. It's the approach on High Street. There we can see Stonegrange from the High Street, and the next is a bit further along. Okay, so the main issues raised by this relate to ecology and heritage impacts. In relation to ecology, we haven't had any ecology report to come the application. The existing outbuildings of an age and in an environment which would trigger the need for that. So therefore, the application is not covered by ecology report. Then we've got no information to conclude that it wouldn't impact on statutory protected species. So it's not planning policy compliant in that regard. So both applications are recommended for refusal on that basis. Turning to heritage, there's particular concern with the new garage building and the impact the structure will have on the character and appearance of the Grade 2 star listed building and its setting. Just to emphasise that Grade 2 star listed buildings are particularly important buildings of more than special importance, and they amount to less than 6% of all listed buildings in England. It's come to a committee because the parish council are supportive. They are supportive of the style and design of the building. And whilst we note that, both the council's conservation officer and Historic England have submitted comments in concern, both in relation to the original plans and to the revised plans. The agent has responded with those revised plans, and the update in the comments is provided in the additional letters from Historic England, which confirms their concerns are not overcome, nor those of the Conservation Officer. So as this is a Grade 2 star listed building, any development should provide enhancement or at minimum neutral resulting in no harm to significance. There remains fundamental concerns with regards to siting, the proximity and scale of the proposed building in relation to this important Grade 2 historic listed building, such that opinion remains that the proposed new building will cause unacceptable harm to the setting and significance of the Grade 2 historic listed building. No clear and convincing justification for harm has been provided to demonstrate otherwise, and there's no public benefits that outweigh the harm. There's a further objection from a local resident echoing the above concerns, and in addition to objecting to the use of, as you can see, red brick as a walling material to the south and east elevations, which is considered out of keeping both with Stonegrange and other houses visible in the vicinity. It's also notable that whilst the parish council do not object, they are not in agreement with the use of brick, and highlight that, presumably close to the proximity of the building to the boundary, that they consider the boundary hedge will need to be, need to be removed, which would further add to the visual impact. So in conclusion, in regard to foregoing, it's considered that the proposal subject to both applications on balance and when assessed as a whole are contrary to prevailing planning policies and legislation concerning safeguarding the historic and natural environment, and refusal is recommended for the heritage and ecology reasons set out in paragraph 7.2 of both committee reports. Thank you. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Jane. Okay, we have one speaker. The agent, Graham Moss, would you like to come forward, please? Now, in this case, committee, because you've got two applications on for the same one, Graham, you can have 6 minutes if needed.
I don't need 6 minutes. I'm actually speaking for both. I'm speaking for both.
Okay, thank you.
This application has been supported by the parish council, which is significant as they were the only consultee who actually visited the site and therefore, in my view, hold the most authoritative viewpoint. The response from the local authority in Historic England appeared to be primarily generic, and when revised drawings were submitted, no mention was made of the substantial reduction in scale. The height of the building came down 0.5 metre, and we mentioned that, but nobody else has. As there are traditional outbuildings to the rear of the property, it would be impossible to relocate this proposal with any advantage. However, the implication made by the local authority is this modest building would spoil views from the northeast, and it's simply not true, as it would be all but invisible, as I hope those photographs have made clear from the road. You don't see a thing. We've also worked very hard, as the parish council acknowledged, to provide a building that would be entirely sympathetic to the main house, using the verge parapets and other details. Now, I appreciate some comment has been made about the brick on the rear of the building. That is because it's built into a dense hedge, and I saw no point in using dressed ashlar sandstone when it was facing into a hedge. I hope you've done a site visit today. And I could have prepared a photo montage, but as it would show nothing, it seemed hardly relevant at the time. Conservation departments frequently mention harm to historic buildings without any accountability for definition, on the basis that any alteration, however small, is automatically harm. I would contest that a modest outbuilding in this location would constitute harm, and concede no substantive argument that indeed it would. We have previously extended the 2-star Stonegrange with a very large extension on the other side, which allegedly caused no harm, and that was on the main building itself. Also today, I've only just heard that we didn't submit ecology. We were never asked for that. There's no paperwork in relation to ecology at all. The garages that we're converting were modern buildings with flat roofs, and so we didn't see a point, but there was no discussion taking place over that. Thank you.
Thank you, Graham. Okay, Jane, let's come back on any comments there.
In the update sheet, the conservation officer has responded on the matter of the site visit, so that's the members who have read the dates. So on the matter of significant reduction, 500 mil relates to the gable of the garage building. The actual ridge of the roof is 300 mil. So whether that is classed as significant, are obviously in disagreement, officers do still consider that it will be an effect. Currently, there is no buildings forward of this building. This will be a building forward of the primary front elevation of Grade 2 star listed building. Therefore, it necessitates serious consideration. The large extension that was referred to by the agent, that is on the back side of the dwelling. And there was previously a smaller kitchen extension in that place, which was a later addition, which was removed. And incidentally, the ecology report was done to support that submission. In the Conservation Officer's comments, you will also note that if we go to the location boundaries, that historically, where the existing outbuilding is at the back, that was twice the length historically. So at some point in time, that building has been reduced its size. The onus on demonstrating the location of any new building rests with the applicant. We've got no justification to say why that location is practically reinstating something that was there could not be done. So the Conservation Officer is saying, where's the justification? What are the options have you looked at? Why does it need to be forward of the building line? So when historically there has been a bigger development at back. As regards no ecology report, there is no pre-app sought. I think that's set out in before coming in for this submission, and obviously from previous submissions where ecology reports have been produced, the applicants and the agent would have been aware that it is a potential to request an ecology report. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Just one comment from me. It's a shame you haven't got more photographs of the house itself, the listed house, star, Grade 2 listed building. That's a shame. Right, no floor now. Nick.
Thank you. Just a quick question. The hedge mentioned by the agent as a reason for not needing stone at the back of the house. Can we have any more information about this hedge? How permanent is it? Because most hedges fail after a period of time. Is this a substantial yew hedge that's going to be there virtually forever, or what sort of hedge, please?
The hedge is in the picture, and also I would highlight back again, which I said earlier, the parish council were concerned about the proximity of the building to the hedge, because it might be that building, if you go to the block plan,
Yeah. Okay.
over there, you'll see it's there. See how close the building is to the hedge. Yeah, so it could impact on the hedge, and the hedge will fail.
No, I think Nick's actually asking about the extension of the house, aren't you?
No, Chair, I was checking. I thought the building was close to that hedge. Wasn't sure that that was the hedge. So I was just making sure how substantial a hedge it was and how long it was likely to be there.
The relationship is basically shown on that drawing then, on that photograph.
Thank you.
It will be higher than the hedge, yes. Right. So you will see some of it.
The officer for report, and I'd like to propose that we support her recommendation to refuse, please.
Do I have a second? Thank you. Now, any more comments? Oh, so.
Oh, sorry, Steve.
Yeah.
Not a comment about this. I'm just the second one today, where I've always been beating the drums at the parish council. The weight, great weight, isn't attributed to the parish council.
Okay. Gary.
Thanks, Chairman. I'm just concerned that it's forward of the building line, and they're saying there's nowhere else to put it. It's a big property with all land around it, and you tell me you can't find space for 3-bedroom and 3-car garage in line with the building line. And the fact they haven't sought pre-application advice from the officers to discuss positions of the sites, etc. So perhaps there might be an opportunity to defer and let them take advice and resubmit a more accurate plan. Just a thought.
I think it's a new application, really, that isn't it? If this does go down, goes the officer's recommendation, I think a new application
Yes.
has to come in.
If members are mindful to refuse the application, officers welcome further engagement with the applicants to find a suitable solution. And the fact that Historic England have raised objections here is a significant material consideration, in my opinion, because this is grade 2 star. Remember, it's not just grade 2, it's grade 2 star.
Big night load.
No.
Thank you, Chair. On that basis, though, I do remember this committee agreeing to a very large hotel next to one of our very finest grade 2 star listed buildings.
Oh, yeah, I wonder about that. Yeah, okay. I feel that we've got a proposal on the table to refuse this with officer's recommendation. They haven't taken the advice prior to this. But I think you ought to vote on that, which Ted proposed. Pretty happy?
Yeah.
Not really happy, but that's what we're going to do. Okay, so we'll have a roll call vote on this, please.
Thank you, Chair. Please can you confirm whether you're for or against the proposal? Gary Burchett?
Or
Ted Clark?
For,
Steve Davenport? For Julian Dean?
for,
Chair Fowler? For Roger Evans?
or
Matt Green?
for,
Owen Taylor?
for,
Nick Hignett?
for,
Paul Wynn?
For
Unanimous.
unanimous. Thank you, because that's not the officer's recommendation. Okay, moving on to the agenda. Sorry, we've got to vote again. Okay. You just go straight vote. Yeah, straight vote. Okay.
oh, can we just be, sorry, Chair, can we just clarify what we're now voting on? Because we also started that one.
The application also includes a listed building consent, in addition to the full application.
Thank you.
We have a show of hands on this. I think we can have a show of hands, can't we? All those in favour of the officer's recommendation? Yeah, unanimous. Thank you. Right. That's not my phone. Hang on, where? Right. Okay, appeals and appeals decisions. Philip, any comments on it?
Yeah. Well, there's a list of the appeals recently submitted, and they're all dismissed except for the one, the second to last item. This is a situation where the first application was refused in accordance with scheme delegation for a care home at Bricklin Heath House. Members will be aware of this one. There's a second application come in, which we supported at committee, which members supported. However, the applicants continued with the first one as appeal, and the inspector subsequently has allowed that and awarded a partial award of costs against the council in relationship to issues that were should no longer be contested, owing to the fact that we'd allowed a previous appeal. Sorry, owing to we'd allowed a second application. Therefore, in the inspector's eyes, we should have withdrawn 3 reasons for refusal. So he's awarded a partial award of costs, and it'll equate to the time spent on the appeal from the date of the committee to the date the appeal was submitted, which is 14 days. There are lessons to be learnt by officers, and we have already held post-mortem into this at our weekly team meeting, and we accept the inspector's conclusions.
Any comments on the appeals? No. I'd just like to thank the 2 new members of our committee and their input. Very useful. Thank you very much. And item 10 is the date of the next meeting of the committee will be on Tuesday, 13th of August. Okay, I close the meeting. Thank you very much.